You know, I love making videos about basketball, but the Wizards are taking away my love for the game. I'm just not sure I can be so invested in this sport when the team I'll always be tied to is just gonna be ass. I need something that'll make me feel happy talking about basketball. Something to stop me from becoming a food review channel or some shit. What's something awesome I can talk about? Getting a raise, puppies, your friends finding love. How about that one time the Sacramento Kings finished above 500? Feel-good sports stories. The type of shit that even the most impartial of fans can see on their Instagram timeline and say, I like this. These stories can come in many varieties. Sometimes it's a fun come-up story. Sometimes it's a powerful connection between on and off-court events, like Isaiah Thomas dropping 53 following the death of his sister. A lot of times it can be an incredible return from injuries. But most of the time, a feel-good story is just a shitty team becoming good again. I've seen many of these types of seasons. I've experienced some as a fan myself, and they're truly one of the most awesome things in sports. To me, no team fits this description better than the 2023 Sacramento Kings do. The Beam Team. They had some of the most awesome vibes I've ever seen. They snapped a 16-season playoff drought that year and came out of nowhere to become a good team in the Western Conference. They checked all the boxes to be a feel-good story. The Kings were everyone's team that year. To fully understand why this Kings season was such a big deal back then, we've got to give some context on just how bad it was before. In short, the Kings have had some sort of curse since the 2002 season. They were arguably the best team in the league that year. They had the best record, a perfectly gelled lineup 1 through 5, and stood one win away from their first NBA Finals appearance since they won it in 1951, back when NBA stood for Newsboy Basketball Association. In Game 6 of the 2002 Conference Finals, the Kings were knotted up with the Lakers with a quarter to go when some questionable calls were made, even more questionable plays were ignored, and the Lakers went on to win that game and eventually the series. That Kings team would never return to the conference finals, and by 2007, they were effectively dismantled and out of the playoffs. The drought had unknowingly begun. Here's what kept that drought going for so damn long. In 2009, they got their first top 5 pick to start the rebuild, Tyreke Evans. He won Rookie of the Year and looked to be their core building block. Nope, that was his best season. They switched him from point guard to shooting guard and he never put up those same stats again. However, the Kings quickly shifted their focus to their next high draft pick, DeMarcus Cousins. Boogie was a core guy from the jump. He struggled efficiency-wise early on, but put up numbers the entire time. It only took him 4 seasons to become a perennial 25-10 guy. He was legit. After drafting a guy like him at number 5, the Kings would keep that momentum going. In the next 5 drafts, they got themselves solid rotation players like Jimmer Fredette, Thomas Robinson, Ben McLemore, Nick Stauskas, and Willie Cauley-Stein to help Boogie. Oh yeah? And who were their first round picks? Yeah, the Boogie Cousins Kings weren't very good. All those guys were top 10 picks. 5 straight drafts picking top 10, and that was what they got. While Boogie certainly wasn't a perfect franchise star, he wasn't the most efficient, not a great playmaker, and didn't play great defense. Those flaws can be overlooked when the rest of your roster has like 2 NBA players on it. So Boogie came and went, and by 2017, the playoff drought had reached 10 years. Throughout his tenure, the Kings had 6 different head coaches and 3 different GMs. They also got a new owner in 2013, basketball visionary Vivek Ranadive. He once said he wanted the Kings to play 4-on-5 defense and have one guy cherry pick at the other end. You know, I always wanted to see this in action. I always thought it couldn't be that bad. Just leave a guy like Tony Allen wide open. What's the worst that can happen? I'm only half joking. Anyway, the Kings turned over a new leaf in 2017. Over the next 3 years, they drafted and acquired a new young core of Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, Marvin Bagley, and Tyrese Halliburton. Despite Bagley being a dud and Hield being like 24 as a rookie, this was an encouraging group of players. However, Kings management got antsy, and in 2022, after 5 more seasons of mediocrity since the Cousins trade, They made a bold decision to trade the young star Halliburton for an established all-star in Domantas Sabonis. This was a scrutinized move at the time, as trading a player as promising as Halliburton has the potential to backfire big time, which it did. But at the same time, Sabonis was no slouch. After the trade, they went just 5-10 in games he played, but this set them up for another top 5 pick in their first full season in win now mode for the 2023 season. The Kings' offseason moves in 2022 had the same vibes as the Sabonis trade. They wanted to compete. They hired an established winning coach in Mike Brown, drafted a plug-and-play forward in Keegan Murray, signed Malik Monk from the Lakers, and traded a first-round pick for Kevin Huerter. They also, of course, anticipated this change in winning with the new laser beams they installed above their arena. The beam, as it would come to be known, would light up above the Golden One Center after every Sacramento Kings win, home and away. Not only did this allow for some sick shots right outside the arena, you could genuinely see this thing anywhere in Sacramento. It was crazy. I myself first heard about this when they were 1-4 and being like, there's no way the Kings can do something like this and be bad. They're not doing all this to go 33-49.
Ooh, I need some fresh air. Damn it, we messed up our pick!
Although they did get this idea from the Los Angeles Angels, so clearly this concept doesn't discriminate against mediocrity. And regardless, soon after I worried about the Kings embarrassing themselves with this beam, they shut me the hell up. They ripped off a 7-game win streak in November to improve to 10-6, 5 of those wins coming at home. They had viral moments of players lighting the beam after wins. They had celebrities lighting the beam. The Kings were cool again. Of course, a lot of their new popularity was due to the beam and simply because they were winning again, but it was also the ways in which they won these games. Sacramento was clutch city that year. There were so many big time plays throughout this season. Fox hit this deep ass logo 3 to win a game in Orlando. Kevin Huerter hit this dagger 3 against the Jazz that made the crowd sound like a shitty high school basketball live stream. A week after that, Fox hit another game winner also against the Jazz. Then he gets a clutch bucket to beat the Lakers, not without the help of Harrison Barnes getting a clutch bucket, and Malik Monk hit this clutch 3 to send the game to OT, in which they won in the second highest scoring game of all time. Clutch plays are highlights, which puts eyes on your team, and the Kings had exactly that. It was also reflected in the awards. De'Aaron Fox got the NBA's first ever Clutch Player of the Year. But don't let all these clutch plays fool you into thinking that the Kings' 48 wins were the product of lucky wins and overperforming. Sacramento set the record for the highest single season offensive rating ever. This would be broken just a year later, but still impressive nonetheless. The roster wasn't perfect overall, but it was damn close to being so on the offensive side. Domantas Sabonis was an awesome offensive hub for this team, with his efficient post scoring, great playmaking, and elite offensive rebounding. De'Aaron Fox had a career season, scoring 25 points per game with 6 assists. Both of these guys were honored with All-NBA third team selections, each receiving that honor for the first time in their careers. Alongside those two was a very solid supporting cast with both fit and talent. Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, and Keegan Murray were a seamless fit 2 through 4 around these guys, shooting the lights out and providing solid defense, though that wasn't this team's strong suit. Keegan Murray even set the rookie record for most threes in a season, being a super valuable role player from day one. And I can't forget about Malik Monk. The Kings snagged him to be their 6th man extraordinaire, and he delivered big time. Round off the bench with solid role players like Davion Mitchell, Trey Lyles, and Terrence Davis, and you've got yourself a squad that fit perfectly for offensive success. By the numbers, this team was just as impressive as their individual players suggest. They were the most efficient shooters in basketball according to true shooting percentage because they were top 10 in both 3-point and free throw attempts, the most efficient shots in basketball. They finished 8th in net rating, being weighed down by their defense, as net rating is just offensive rating minus defensive rating. a more controlled version of points scored minus points allowed. Coach Mike Brown was unanimously voted Coach of the Year for his efforts in turning around this team, a testament to just how big a deal this was. The Kings finished their season 48-34, an 18-win improvement from the previous year and good enough for third in the Western Conference. A defining feature of a feel-good team is being able to say, come playoff time, damn, the Kings are really in the playoffs. This feeling is intensified when that team is hosting the first playoff game, as Sacramento was scheduled to do against Golden State. This was a huge opportunity to prove themselves. A lot weighs on teams of their kind as they enter these big playoff moments, as people claim inexperience will show through when the lights become brightest, but the Kings shut down those rumors to begin this heavyweight battle. In Game 1, Fox was the heavy hitter with 38 points and a narrow victory, whereas Game 2 was more of a balanced attack as they took a comfortable win to give themselves a 2-0 lead. But the Warriors were able to respond. In Game 3, they won comfortably in these abominations of jerseys. In Game 4, Harrison Barnes missed a 3 at the buzzer, allowing Golden State to hold on. And in Game 5, the Warriors rode the back of a 4-point, 21-rebound performance from Kevon Looney. With their dream season on the line in Game 6, the Kings took win number 51 on the year with an emphatic road victory to force a Game 7 at home. Unfortunately for them, though, the old cliches were right. Experience did matter. Steph Curry set the Game 7 scoring record with a 50-burger en route to a comfortable series-clinching win. The Kings' loss was obviously a major disappointment given how they started the series, but there was plenty to be optimistic about going forward. They just took the reigning champs to 7 games, a feat that if you told a Kings fan they'd accomplish it before the season, they'd call it their best season in years. Cause it was! The vibes remained sky high around the Beam team. This was just the start. Their core guys were still pretty young, they found their head coach, and their improvement of 18 wins meant Kings fans expected even more steady improvement in the future. Here's what actually happened. 2024 was essentially a much less fun version of 2023 for the Kings, because they actually had expectations this time. They started the offseason by rebranding, giving themselves one of my favorite uniform combinations in the league outside for this gradient thing. Roster-wise, they basically brought back the exact same team. No major additions or losses. But their offense declined heavily in 2024, dropping from 1st to 13th in offensive rating. They fell down the Western Conference totem pole as a result, missing the playoffs entirely despite notching just 2 less wins than 2023. Following the disappointing outcome, the Kings decided they had to shake things up this time around. In doing so, they brought in 35-year-old DeMar DeRozan.
You could cheer. It's all right.
Indicated by the fact that they let Harrison Barnes and Davion Mitchell walk, the Kings thought that their issue was not the lack of high-end role players, but rather the lack of a third star, something DeRozan could do, I guess. As you may expect by my tone of voice, this experiment didn't go too well. The Kings took yet another step back, starting 13-18 and firing Mike Brown less than 2 years removed from his Coach of the Year award. This upset De'Aaron Fox, and while he didn't formally request a trade, it still bothered him enough for the Kings to move on. They got Zach LaVine in return in a 3-team trade to become the Sacramento Bulls. This new core of Sabonis, LaVine, and DeRozan was good enough to sneak into the play-in, but nothing more. By this point, the team from 2023 was almost unrecognizable, a switch that took just 2 seasons to flip. And in the 2025 offseason, they leaned even heavier into their lack of a direction by signing Dennis Schroeder and Russ, while shedding a solid role player in Jake LaRavia. The Kings have been, to put it bluntly, an absolute joke to start 2025-26. They are one of the worst teams in the league, playing Russ at power forward some nights and overall lacking all the things that made 2023 so special. That season was not some sick joke. It did happen. It was legit. But clearly the success they experienced that year wasn't sustainable. Why is that? What went wrong? Well, for starters, their great results in 2023 had a fair bit of luck involved. Not purely in win-loss record, their net rating suggests the same ranking as their regular record would, but the team had a lot going on their side throughout the year. They were super fortunate with injuries. Nobody in the Kings' primary rotation missed significant time, something that's become harder and harder to ask for in the modern NBA. On top of that, they might have shot the ball unsustainably well in 2023. Both Keegan Murray and Kevin Huerter regressed from elite shooters to just okay ones in a single year, and as a result, they could no longer ride an elite offense to carry their average at best defense. I also believe the Kings took with them certain moral victories that in hindsight didn't mean as much for their future as we thought. Like sure, they hosted a playoff series, but they won 48 games. Many years, that's not getting you the 3 seed. The Pelicans had 49 the next season, and they were stuck in the play-in, eliminating the Kings to get the 8 seed. The outcome of the Warriors series also gave the Kings some more false hope. Like sure, they took the defending champs to 7, but those same defending champs got packed up in the next round and have made significant moves to change the team that Sacramento took to 7. These were all factors that regressed to the mean in 2024, causing them a more realistic outcome relative to the team they were putting out there. The disappointment they felt following a pretty realistic outcome for the 2024 team put the front office into panic mode, and they made 2 mind-boggling decisions that ultimately cooked this core for good. The quick downfall that the Kings experienced was unfortunately partly to do with their status as a feel-good team. Management didn't make an aggressive move following their morally victorious but ultimately not good enough season, and when they saw the reality of this team's future, they panicked in a too little, too late moment. And unsurprisingly, they're far from the first team to do such a thing. This type of thing happens far more in the NFL, where win-loss record is a lot more noisy. A few lucky wins can really change the whole perception of your season. I've noticed this happen twice with my own New York Giants, as in their only 2 playoff seasons during my fandom, they won a bunch of close games and didn't really make any moves after those seasons, causing them to fall right back into mediocrity. Another NBA example of this, though, is the 2022 Chicago Bulls. They made aggressive moves to get Nikola Vucevic, DeMar DeRozan, and Lonzo Ball, and ultimately made the playoffs for the first time since Jimmy Butler was in town. They had heavy feel-good vibes that season, as they held the 1 seed for a while before injuries brought them back down. This gave them enough hope to stay in play-in purgatory for the next 3 years trying to make this team work before finally kinda moving on in 2025.
And all they did was just give their best players to the Kings.
But there have also been times where teams don't get complacent after a feel-good season and have taken the next steps toward contention. The 2021 Knicks come to mind. They had a totally new identity with Tom Thibodeau coaching and Julius Randle becoming an all-star, but they ultimately flamed out hard in the playoffs and missed it altogether in the next year. That's when the Knicks got aggressive, taking a gamble on underrated Mavs bench guard Jalen Brunson to become their next star. Now, to be fair, that's basically what the Kings did by signing DeRozan, but signing Brunson at least made sense even before they knew he was an all-star. I also think the late 2010s Raptors fit this description. They had been searching for a new identity since Vince Carter and Chris Bosh left them, and when Kyle Lowry and DeRozan broke out, they were a fun playoff team year in, year out. However, the consistent love from Drake couldn't stop LeBron from dragging his nuts all over them every single year, so they traded their franchise star DeMar DeRozan to win a title with Kawhi. Cold-hearted, but they got the job done. Now, a feel-good story whose destiny remains unknown is the 2025 Pistons. I think they'll be fine. Their stars are a lot younger than that of the Kings, but only time will tell. The Kings roster blunders and current fall off is sad to witness, man. I loved the Beam team. We all loved the Beam team. The way they mismanaged their roster following that successful season will forever serve as a cautionary tale of getting complacent when you have no business doing so. Basking in moral victories and forgetting about the main goal at hand, winning a championship. I hope they can find some stability in their future, because those fans deserve it. But at the same time, they need to reset this once again. This core just ain't doing it. They're probably just tanking at this point, but they need to cut their losses with this goofy ass big 3 and start a real man's rebuild. Maybe get Russ some reps at designated cherry picker before he hangs it up. But now that we can say it's officially over, the 2023 season is officially behind us, it almost makes their resume look worse from a management perspective. Like, yeah, you built a playoff team and ended your embarrassingly long playoff drought, but you fucked it all up almost as quickly as you built it. Regardless, we'll always have the Beam team. I can always see that Kevin Herter crowd pop on my Twitter timeline every couple months, or watch highlights from that dogfight with Golden State. And for those moments alone, I think I'm gonna continue making basketball videos. Maybe with a side of food reviews too, though.
This stuff's fucking good. Trade Linus for 3.